Something's been happening to you lately, and you can't quite name it. Your favorite songs sound like noise. Conversations that used to energize you now drain you. Even the goals you were chasing just months ago feel like someone else's dreams. You're scrolling through your phone, looking for something to make you feel alive. And nothing lands. Nothing sticks. It's like you're watching your own life from behind glass. Present, but not really here. And the worst part? You can't figure out what's wrong with you because, logically, nothing's changed. Your life looks the same from the outside, but inside feels hollow, empty, like someone turned down the volume on everything that used to matter. And you're sitting here wondering if this is it. If this flatness, this numbness, this complete lack of interest in everything is just who you are now. But what if I told you that what you're experiencing isn't the beginning of the end? What if this emptiness, this disinterest, this feeling like nothing excites you anymore? What if that's not you falling apart? What if it's you falling into place? Because here's what nobody tells you about transformation. It doesn't start with a spark. It starts with an ending, a slow, quiet dissolving of the version of you that no longer fits. And that process feels exactly like losing interest in everything. Because you are. You're losing interest in the person you used to be, in the life you used to accept, in the dreams you used to chase because you thought you were supposed to, not because they were actually yours. Your soul is cleaning the house, and it feels like emptiness because the old furniture is being removed before the new arrives. Let me explain what's really happening. For years, maybe your whole life, you've been operating on borrowed energy, chasing things that look good on paper, maintaining relationships because you felt obligated, pursuing goals because that's what successful people do, forcing yourself to be excited about things that never truly lit you up, but you convinced yourself they should, and your system went along with it. Your mind, your body, your energy, they all cooperated because that's what they do. They adapt. But here's the thing about borrowed energy. Eventually, it runs out. Eventually, your authentic self says, enough. I'm done pretending. I'm done performing. I'm done carrying things that aren't mine. And when that happens, when your true self finally speaks up, it doesn't announce itself with clarity. It announces itself with disinterest, with detachment, with a profound, unsettling emptiness that makes you question everything. And that's where you are right now, standing in the gap between who you've been and who you're becoming. And it's terrifying because the old you is fading, but the new you hasn't fully formed yet. You're in the void, the in-between, the space where nothing makes sense because you're not supposed to make sense yet. You're supposed to be formless, undefined, open, and every part of your conditioned mind is panicking because we're taught that we always need to know who we are, what we want, where we're going. But this phase requires you to not know, to sit in the uncertainty, to let the emptiness be empty without rushing to fill it with the wrong things, just to feel something again. Because if you do that, if you panic and grab onto the first thing that gives you a hit of dopamine or validation or distraction, you'll end up right back where you started, chasing borrowed dreams with borrowed energy until you burn out again. So what do? How do you navigate this phase when nothing feels right and everything feels pointless? You stop fighting it. You stop trying to force interest where there isn't any. You stop beating yourself up for not being motivated. You stop comparing yourself to who you were 6 months ago when you had energy and drive and clarity, because that version of you was running on fumes, chasing things that weren't aligned, operating from a frequency that wasn't yours, and your system knew it. Your body knew it. Your soul knew it. They just didn't know how to tell you. Until now. So they took away your interest. They made everything feel flat so you'd finally stop moving long enough to listen, to feel, to ask yourself the questions you've been avoiding. What do I actually want, not what I'm supposed to want? What actually lights me up? Not what looks impressive. Who do I actually want to become? Not who I've been trying to be to keep everyone comfortable. And those questions are terrifying, because the answers might not look like what you thought your life would be. They might not fit the timeline you set for yourself. They might not make sense to the people around you, but they'll be real. And real is the only thing your soul is interested in anymore. That's why the fakes stop working. That's why the surface level connections feel exhausting. That's why the goals that used to drive you now feel meaningless, because you've outgrown them. You've evolved past the frequency where those things resonate. And now you're in this awkward phase where the old doesn't fit, but the new hasn't arrived yet. And it feels like you're losing yourself, but you're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself for the first time, without the noise, without the performance, without the mask you didn't even realize you were wearing. Here's what's actually happening on a deeper level. Your nervous system is recalibrating. For years, it's been in survival mode, people-pleasing mode, achievement mode, proving mode, always scanning for threats, for approval, for validation that you're doing it right. And that's exhausting. So your system finally said, I need a break. And it shut down the reward center. It stopped giving you dopamine hits for things that weren't actually nourishing you. It stopped lighting up for likes, praise, and external validation. Not because something's broken, but because it's trying to teach you a new way. A way where you don't need constant stimulation, where you don't need external proof that, you're on the right path, where you can just be still, quiet, undefined, and find peace in that instead of panic. And this is where most people get stuck. They interpret this phase as depression, as something being wrong with them, as proof they're broken, failing, or falling behind. So they try to snap out of it. They force routines. They consume motivation. They try to reignite passion through sheer willpower, and none of it works. Because you can't force your way through a recalibration. You can't think your way out of a transformation. You have to let it happen. You have to trust that this emptiness is making space for something better. That this disinterest is your soul's way of protecting you from settling. That this flatness is actually the most alive you've ever been. You just can't see it yet because you're still in the middle of it. But here's how you'll know it's working. You'll start noticing small shifts. You'll stop forcing conversations with people who drain you. You'll start saying no without guilt. You'll feel less attached to outcomes, less desperate for validation, less worried about what people think. You'll crave solitude instead of fearing it. You'll stop oversharing and start protecting your energy. You'll feel still, not in a depressed way, but in a grounded way. Like you're finally standing on solid ground after years of chasing mirages. And that stillness? That's not emptiness. That's clarity beginning to take shape. That's your authentic self emerging from beneath the conditioning, the expectations, the borrowed dreams. And when it fully arrives, when you finally step into that new version of yourself, you won't recognize your old life. The things that used to excite you will feel foreign. The people you used to orbit will feel distant. And that's not sad. That's evolution. So if you're in this phase right now, if nothing excites you and everything feels pointless, if you're wondering whether you'll ever feel alive again, hear me when I say this. You will, but not in the way you're expecting. You won't go back to who you were. You won't recapture that old spark, because that spark was burning fuel that wasn't sustainable. What's coming is different. It's not a spark. It's a steady flame. Not loud, but constant. Not desperate, but sure. And when you feel it, when you finally step into that new frequency, you'll understand why this emptiness was necessary. Why you had to lose interest in everything to discover what actually matters. Why you had to feel nothing to finally feel everything that's real. Now, if this is resonating, if you're nodding along, feeling seen and understood, I want you to do something. Go to the comments and type 4 words. I'm in the void. That's it. No explanation, just those 4 words. Because naming where you are takes away some of its power. It stops feeling like you're alone in this strange, uncomfortable space. And if you know someone who's been feeling flat, disconnected, like they're just going through the motions, share this with them. Ask them to write it too. I'm in the void. Because sometimes we need permission to stop pretending we're okay. Permission to stop smiling when everything inside feels quiet, heavy, or undefined. Permission to admit that forcing interest, forcing motivation, forcing enthusiasm has been exhausting us more than the emptiness ever could. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop trying to perform wellness and allow yourself to be exactly where you are. Not fixed, not figured out, just honest. To sit in the in-between without rushing to label it, without immediately trying to escape it, without shaming yourself for not being who you were yesterday or who you thought you'd be by now. Because this space, the pause, the stillness, the silence, is not a failure. It's a recalibration. And when you trust that something better is forming beneath the surface, you stop trying to fill the quiet with noise. You stop reaching for distractions just to feel something. You stop demanding answers before the questions have even fully revealed themselves. You learn to breathe here, to rest here, to listen. If you want more of these conversations that don't rush you, don't shame you, don't demand that you be productive just to be worthy, subscribe. Not because you need another channel, but because sometimes it helps to walk alongside voices that understand this phase instead of trying to pull you out of it. And if supporting through super thanks feels right, it helps me invest in creating these messages with more care, more depth, more clarity, so they reach the people who need them without being diluted into noise. But either way, whether you subscribe, comment, or just listen quietly in your own space, you being here matters. Your presence matters. Your attention matters. Your willingness to sit with something uncomfortable instead of running from it matters more than you realize. And here's something important you need to hear. This phase won't last forever. It only feels permanent because you're inside it. Because when you're standing in the middle of fog, it feels endless, even though the edge is closer than you think. One day, sooner than you expect, you'll wake up and something will feel different. Not everything. Not dramatically, just something. A conversation will land differently. Words will sink in instead of sliding off. You'll notice curiosity flicker where numbness used to live. An idea will cross your mind. Not urgent, not overwhelming, but gentle and intriguing. A possibility will open that wasn't there before, or maybe it was always there and you're just finally able to see it. You'll feel calm in a way that doesn't require excitement. Certain without needing proof, aligned without needing applause. And in that moment, you'll realize something profound. The emptiness wasn't taking something from you. It was making room for a version of you that doesn't need to chase to feel worthy. A version that doesn't need to prove their value through productivity, performance, or approval. A version that knows who they are even when no one is watching. The one who doesn't need constant validation. The one who doesn't need to explain themselves. The one who trusts their own timing instead of racing against someone else's clock. That version of you isn't coming later. They're forming right now. In the silence. In the stillness. In the void you've been so afraid of because it doesn't give instant feedback or easy reassurance. But growth doesn't always announce itself with noise. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it dismantles before it rebuilds. Sometimes it asks you to stop running long enough to notice what's actually true. So stop trying to escape this phase. Stop treating stillness like something to fix. Stop assuming that nothing happening on the surface means nothing is happening at all. Let this space reshape you. Let it strip away what was never truly yours. Let it slow you down until your inner compass becomes louder than the outside world. Because on the other side of this emptiness is the most authentic version of yourself you've ever been. Not the loudest, not the most impressive, but the most real. And when you finally meet that version, when you finally become them, you'll understand why you had to lose interest in everything else. Because nothing else was ever truly aligned with who you were becoming. Nothing else could follow you into this next chapter. This isn't the end of your story. It's the moment the story stops being borrowed and starts being yours. This isn't the end. It's just beginning.